प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवेति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। In verse number 1, he is talking about one is known as Anubandha Chatushtayam, another is Shat Sampati. Anubandha Chatushtayam as in the four steps. The four steps of Vishaya, Phala, Sambandha and Adhikari. Of the Adhikari, one of the important things for the Adhikari is to have this Shat Sampat, 6 qualities. Sampat means wealth. Shat means 6. 6 qualities. 6 qualities of the spiritual seeker. Now, 2 things in relation to this 6 qualities. One thing is, if these 6 qualities are there, absorption of knowledge becomes better, easier. If these 6 qualities are not there, the same knowledge teaches you how to develop these 6 qualities. 2 things it says. One is what it is to have these 6 qualities. And it is these 6 qualities that helps in absorption of this knowledge better. Sir, if I don't have the 6 qualities, then what do I do? Don't worry, studying the subject will help you to develop these 6 qualities. 6 important qualities for absorption of knowledge. The 6 important qualities are Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Shanti, peace. 6 qualities. The 6 qualities is the quality of calmness, then the quality of Dhamma, Shama, Dhamma, then comes self-withdrawal, then comes endurance, Titiksha, then comes Shraddha, faith, and number 6 is Prashanta, Shanti, the tranquility. Now, what are these 6 qualities? The first thing is Shamaha, calmness of mind. The first qualification for Shravana is a calm mind. A mind that is not preoccupied with what had happened before, what I am going, what I need to do, what all I need to do after the class is over. The mind that is not preoccupied with these two, that's what he calls as Shamaha. Otherwise, the mind is not here. For Shravana to happen, for you to listen to what is being said, you need a calm mind. You should always be very careful in looking at the words they use. They never use focus. They never say keep a focused mind. We keep talking about focused mind, you know. He never gives focus as a qualification. He's saying calmness is the qualification. What is calmness? The mind that is not preoccupied with what is. Supposing you have 100 things to do in a day you have planned, and then of the 100 things that you have to do, class is also one. What will happen? When you sit in the class, that 99 will come and disturb. Or as you are listening to the class also, you will start making a note of what all you have to do. It means the Shravana, the mind is not calm enough to hear properly. Therefore, the first thing, the first qualification is Shamaha, the calmness of the mind. Second thing is Dhamma, self-control. Self-control is sense control. Self-control is nothing but sense control. And sense control is in relation to the calmness of the mind. You can't allow the senses to freely roam in the world and then expect you to be calm and peaceful. So both goes, this Dhamma and Shama goes together. You can't allow the mind to freely go in the world. You can't allow the senses to freely roam around and then expect to have focus. So what is essential is sense control. Now what is sense control means? The aid to listening. What is the aid to listening? Minimum is the body has to cooperate in listening. No. The body has to cooperate to listening. What is meant by body has to cooperate to listening? After 10 minutes, 15 minutes, there will be a backache. AC temperature is high suddenly, and then you have to reduce the AC temperature, something or the. Now the senses ought to be under control, so that it aids in the mind Shravana. It aids the Shravana. If the senses are not under control, it means what? Like for example, you feel thirsty. Please drink water if you are thirsty. I'm not saying don't drink water. Drink or don't drink, I have nothing to do with you. Drink or don't drink. Now, as the thirst comes, I keep everything ready. I keep a glass of water. I keep everything ready. And I keep sipping also, because I have to sip water every 15 minutes. To that extent, there is a distraction. What you need to understand is every sense contact is a dissipation. Every sense contact is a dissipation. To that extent, you will not be able to absorb what is told. To that extent, you will not be able to hear what is told. Therefore, another important quality is self-control. Self-control means the senses are not disturbing you from Shravana. That's what self-control is. Sense control is. To put it very simply, what is sense control? The senses are not demanding anything. The senses say, you are doing something higher, noble, I will cooperate and I will stay quiet till the session is over. Abdina, you are practicing sense control. So first is mind control. the calmness, not the control, the calmness. The second thing is self-control. The third thing is self-withdrawal, uparati. The third thing is self-withdrawal, uparati. You have to withdraw from all other activities to pursue Shravana. You have to withdraw from all other activities. Now, you can't keep doing multitasking at the same time. Yeah. Computer done, sir. As you are talking, I will open up another window and check my mail. As you are talking, I'll open up another window and do something. Something is because all this can be done. No. It means lacking self-withdrawal. You are not able to temporarily withdraw. Why you are not able to temporarily withdraw? Any withdrawal, the mind is so tensed, the mind is so agitated. That agitated mind will not allow you to do Shravana properly. Therefore, Uparati, self-withdrawal, is another important discipline. What is Uparati? A self-withdrawal, like we say in the discourses, no? Switch off your mobile phone for 1 hour, 15 minutes, switch off your mobile phone, you withdraw. That's what self-withdrawal is all about, Uparati. But the fact that you are told to withdraw itself is very agitating to the mind, is very frightening to the mind. As a result of which, what happens? Your absorption becomes that much more difficult. The third discipline. The fourth discipline is titiksha. Now, titiksha, all the five of all the six, all the five is related to the Shravana. Titiksha you can use even if you are not interested in Shravana and Manana and Moksha and all that. Still, Titiksha becomes a very useful discipline to conduct your to conduct your life in a in everyday manner, in a very practical way. Titiksha is a very useful discipline. The fourth one, Titiksha. What is Titiksha means? The situations that you have not created, which you have to deal with, you deal with it cheerfully. Again I repeat, Titiksha means, if you most of the in most of the ways, this word Titiksha is translated as putting up with. It's not just putting up with. Titiksha, that is why in English it is very difficult to translate this word Titiksha, because it is a quality of very many factors put together. And what is Titiksha? The situations that you need to deal with, the situations that you have to handle, which is not of your asking, making, but you need to deal with it. Though you didn't ask for it, though you didn't create it, you have to deal with situations. And life gives us any number of situations like that. Now, when these kind of situations come, what is the instant reaction, impulsive reaction? The impulsive instant reaction is to one of, okay, COVID-19 situation. What is the first reaction? The first reaction is to deny it. First thing is to deny it. That's why they say we are in denial mode nowadays. They say no. Now they say denial mode. No, deny it first. First you deny. Second stage is You will tell yourself that it will not happen to you. Okay, COVID-19 has come, but it will not come. Yeah. Up to the building it will come, up to the neighbor's house it will come, but it will not come to you and your house. And when it comes, you start blaming. Who do you blame? Right from the neighbors to God, you can blame everybody. And then you get depressed. And then there is a depression. Why did it happen to? I took all the precautions. I have been washing my hands 20 times. I have been washing my face 40 times. I have been wearing mask even sitting inside the house. Frustration. Why did it happen to me? After going through painfully these 4 stages, the 5th stage is you come to a kind of acceptance. Titiksha is a practice where you short circuit all these stages and straight away you start dealing with the situation with the acceptance mode. That is what Titiksha is all about. Little bit of explanation I'll give for Titiksha. When you are faced with the situation, first thing that you do is you use your time and energy and money and effort and intelligence and all this to find a solution. I inadvertently went into the 3rd step. I'll go from step number 1. Reverse mode lo poren. I'll go from step number 1. Inadvertently I started somewhere at the 3rd step. Assuming that the first 2-3 steps are all known already. Yeah. Then I suddenly realized, no, we should go step by step. Okay. Start with this formula. Life equals situations. Life equals situations. Life gives you situations. Life doesn't give you problems. Life only gives situations. The ability to handle it or not knowing how to handle it, what makes the difference? A situation that you do not know how to handle is what turns into a problem. What would you call as a problem? A situation that you do not know how to handle. Supposing if you know how to handle it, you will not call it as a problem. So what is the definition of a problem? A situation that you do not know how to handle. Life gives me so much of problems, sir, people say. Vedanta says life doesn't give problems, life gives situations. When the situation turn into a problem, when you do not know how to handle it. What is not knowing how to handle it means? Not knowing how to analyze it and understand it. Now, which is what I am going to explain now. How to analyze. So, the first thing is situation has turned into a problem now. If you are able to see it as a situation, there is no problem now. Now the situation has turned into a problem. What is the first thing that a person do when they are faced with the problem? They use their time, money, energy, resources, everything put together to find a solution. This is the first method that everybody adopts. Common sense, all this is. Invariably, what do they experience? How much ever you put your time and effort and money and intelligence and all that, problems doesn't get solved. Sometimes what will happen, you may solve the problem, but what you have brought in as a solution would have turned into another problem. Sometimes you may find a solution, and what you find as a solution turns into another problem. Therefore, what happens? Again, there is a, now when what you brought in as a solution turns into another problem. You are not able to handle the work at home, you bring in a maid, and the maid becomes a problem now. Now, two things you have to handle. What are the two things you have to handle? You have to handle the work, and you have to handle the maid also. Now, to handle that, you bring in another problem. You bring in another solution. Remember this story. Mullah Nasruddin one day woke up in the middle of the night. I have said this quite a few times. Mullah Nasruddin woke up in the middle of the night one day and saw the wife, the 7 children sleeping. He woke them up, 2 o'clock in the morning. He woke them up and said, "Did you know what brought you all here? Did you know what brought you all here?" All of them said, "Don't disturb me in the night. We are going to sleep," and they slept off. One girl who sleep got disturbed, she asked the father, "Now that my sleep is gone, tell me what brought us here." He said, "Now listen, what brought you all here now? What brought you all here is a rat," he said. "All of you are all here because of a single rat." Rat puriyirudhu illaya? Eli. All because of a single rat. They couldn't understand the connection. What is that? What are we got to do with the rat? He said, "I don't understand, father. Explain it." Long back in this house, only I was there alone, all by myself. Long back. Then came a rat. Then came a rat and started giving problems. I didn't know how to handle the rat. So I went and asked the wise man, whoever I thought as wise. I went to that wise man and I asked him, "What is the solution to handle the rat?" And he gave a very simple, straightforward solution. What is a simple, straightforward solution to handle the rat? Bring in a cat. Now he brought the cat to deal with the problem of the rat. Now the cat became the problem. How did the cat become the problem now? Because he has to feed the cat so that the cat can be alive and that cat can take care of the rat. Now how to feed the cat? To feed the cat, you need milk. So he didn't go to the cat fellow. And the consultant kitta pola. That's why we have consultants, no? One consultant told you, go for a cat. And that problem didn't solve. So he went to another consultant. And that consultant said, "What do you want? Milk." And what is the solution that consultant gave? For the milk, you need a cow. Now, what had happened? So he went and got a cow. Now the cow has become a problem. But logic is very correct. Huh? The logic is very correct. What is the logic? You need a cow so that the cow can give milk, and that milk can be fed to the cat, and the cat will be alive to deal with the problem of rat. Logic is very clear. Yeah. Another consultant get a pove gudadu we say. Yeah. You go to any consultant, what will happen is what the story Mullah Nasruddin is saying. Now the cow has become a problem, because for the cow to yield milk, the cow needs grass, fodder. So what he did, where to go for the grass? He bought a plot of land. He bought a plot of land, a piece of land, so that he can grow grass, and that grass can be fed to the that grass can be fed to the cow, and that cow will yield the milk, and that milk can be given to the cat, and the cat will deal with the problem of rat. Now suddenly Mullah Nasruddin realized that he has so many things to handle, which he can't handle by himself. Now he needs a team. He can't handle things by himself. Now he needs a team. Yeah, so he has to hire people. Team. What he did, he hired a lady to help him with all this. Hired the lady. What happened? He got infatuated with the lady, ended up marrying that lady, and produced seven children. Now, the 7 children he has to deal with, the wife he has to deal with, the land he has to deal with, the cow he has to deal with, the cat he has to deal with. What is still there? What didn't leave? What didn't leave? The problem didn't leave. So one method of trying the problem, one method of trying to find the solution is you use your time, effort, money, resources, intelligence, all put together and find a solution. And invariably what you find, that solution itself turning into, what you bring in as a solution itself turns into another problem. And you need to bring in another solution to deal with that problem. If this method fails, another method that people use is when you try to bring in a solution and that solution fails, what happens? You get anger, frustration. You get angry, you get frustrated. And when you get angry and frustrated, what would you do? When you get angry and frustrated, what would you do? Invariably, you will take the anger and frustration out on the weakest link that is available closer to you. Shankaracharya, elsewhere, he says, when anger becomes too much, where it makes you go mad, in that anger, he says, 2 things you will do which you are not supposed to do. What are the 2 things that you are not supposed to do? Even in the height of anger, how much ever angry you get, 2 things you are not supposed to do. One is to shout at the guru. Second is to hit the mother. 2 things you are not supposed to do. How much ever angry you get, 2 things you are not supposed to do, he says. Shankaracharya in that shloka, he says, when anger exceeds a point, you will end up doing that also. We will end up doing that also. This is one method which gives you a temporary bada. I blew my top and I'm feeling and I feel a kind of a temporary relief. No, problem is solved. Now, third method, where you can't, where you can't blow the top, where there's nobody available. What do you do? You start whipping yourself. You start suppressing. You start suppressing. Like, for example, you want to shout at the boss in the office. You want to scream and shout at the boss, but then you will not do that. Why? Because it is not economical to shout at the boss. No, you shout at the boss, what is he going to do? He'll say, get out. So now, where you can't show the anger, you suppress it. And suppression is another method to solve a problem. The Yulo story, don't forget the sequence. What are we still trying to solve? The situation that we do not know how to handle. Now, idalla illama Vedanta gives a fifth method, titiksha. So 3 methods we have seen. What are the 3 methods? The one of trying to find a solution, and the solution itself turns into another. Not necessarily all the time, most of the time. The solution itself turns into problem. Sometimes you bring in, you put your time and effort and money and all that, solutions doesn't come, you get frustrated, you get angry. The third is where you can't show your anger. Another method of dealing with the situation is you suppress it within yourself. You suppress it. The fourth method is classic Arjuna's method in Bhagavad Gita. What is the Arjuna's method in Bhagavad Gita? What is the fourth method that Arjuna used, or Arjuna was trying in the Bhagavad Gita? Escape. Escape. Inga irundha dana sir prachana. Run away. Run away. Don't be here. Only if you are escape. Now, all these 4 is what everybody tries. Vedanta brings in the 5th method. You find Krishna talking about this quality titiksha in the Bhagavad Gita also. Beautifully he says, Tam titikshasva bharata. Tam titikshasva bharata. Oh Bharata, practice titiksha. Now, what is titiksha now? The first thing is acceptance of the situation. Acceptance of the situation. And then doing rest of the things that you are supposed to do is titiksha. Again I repeat, what is titiksha? All the 4 steps you do, you don't do is not the point. The point is at the very first stage, at the very first step, what do? You accept it. And what makes you to accept it? What will drive you to accept? It's not of your asking, it's not of your making. The reality of life is these situations keep coming to you, and you have to accept it. Now, acceptance doesn't mean passively staying quiet and not doing anything. It doesn't mean that. Whenever in Vedanta we talk about accepting, we always think a passive acceptance and not doing anything about it. So how can we not do anything, sir? When did we say don't do anything? First thing is, how are you receiving it? A situation that is not of your making or asking, how are you receiving it first? From the denial mode, you go through these 4 stages and finally painfully come to the acceptance mode. No? Remember the steps I said? From the denial to the acceptance. Vedanta says, why do you have to go through this painful process and all that and finally come to acceptance? Straight away, accept it. With that acceptance, start dealing with it. What is acceptance here means? Acceptance here means a situation that you have not created, you have not asked for, but it comes. Old age, you don't want old age. Who wants old age? Everybody loves to be the Markandeya only, no? You know Markandeya, no? That boy Markandeya. Sweet 16 always. I don't know, sweet 16 or sweet 17. That is the age, you know. Sweet 16, sweet 17, Markandeya, 16. All the time I know Markandeya 16 years old. 16 years old. In English, they say sweet 17. What is sweet 17? Nobody wants these things, but it keeps coming. Now, when it comes, what is your attitude towards it. The attitude towards it is one of a cheerful welcoming. Cheerfully welcoming the situation and then trying to find the solutions to it is what titiksha is all about. And why he says practice titiksha is because situations in life keeps unasked situation keeps coming. What is unasked situation? You don't want your eyes to get cataract, but it gets cataract. You don't want your bones to, what do they call us? The bones keep deteriorating. No, you don't want that to happen, and it happens. Now, when it happens, you may have led a very disciplined life. You may have led a very life of sense control and all that. That is no guarantee that bones will not. That is no guarantee that bones will not. Still bones will deteriorate only. When that happens, what do? You practice titiksha, endurance. When you are practicing titiksha, what happens is your elasticity is increasing. Everybody has an elastic limit. Titiksha increases your elasticity. When your elasticity is increased, you will not be unnecessarily grumbling and complaining about these situations that you have to deal with in life. If you don't practice this titiksha, there will be unnecessarily grumbling and complaining, getting frustrated about these situations. So what is titiksha? The accepting the inevitable situations that you have to, and accepting the inevitable situations that you have to face in life. Accepting it. The moment you accept it, what happens? 50% of the intensity goes down. Okay. To put it to say it from another angle, you have seen people who have faced adversities and came out successful, no? Like survivors of diseases and all that. Now, read their interviews. First thing they say is, I accepted it. Then they fought, then they did whatever they have to do, they did to get over it. But first thing is not one of a frustration or denial or anger or wanting to escape or depression. It is one of a cheerful acceptance. Then what happens? When you cheerfully accept, as you are doing this Ravana, when these kind of disturbances come, you practice. When these kind of disturbances come, you practice titiksha. Okay. What is opposite of titiksha? Understand it like that also. What is opposite of titiksha? Opposite of titiksha is a incapacity to stand pain. Opposite of titiksha is the incapacity to handle pain, stand pain. Very difficult. When you are not having a pain, it is very easy to handle pain because you are only imagining, you are only handling it in imagination. No, when the pain becomes real, it becomes that much difficult to handle it. So, what is it that you understand? What is opposite of titiksha? The inability, the incapacity to handle pain. Now, what is titiksha? What is titiksha now? Titiksha is the capacity to put up with, difficulty. The capacity to put up with pain cheerfully. To put up means to accept it. Accepting pain cheerfully. Accepting pain cheerfully, no, it's not that, what is that kind of mindset they say? They like pain. One is you like to cause pain to the other. Another is you cause pain to yourself and relish that. No, we are not talking about that mental disease of liking pain and enjoying pain. It is not that. And acceptance. A cheerful acceptance of the pain. With the cheerful acceptance, whatever remedial actions you have to take, you take. The problem is not about the remedial actions. The problem is the lack of clarity in accepting, the lack of clarity in understanding the pain and accepting it. So what is titiksha? One of the wonderful qualities. Even if you are not a spiritual practitioner, moksha, mana, you are not interested in moksha and liberation and all that, nakakuda, one thing you can try. What? You can develop this titiksha. To that extent, you will be able to handle the pains. You will be able to handle the pain and sorrow and suffering of life. You will be able to handle to some extent. Therefore, of the 6 qualities, the fourth quality is titiksha. The fifth one is shraddha. The fifth quality is shraddha. We are still discussing the 6-fold qualities of the spiritual seeker, sampati. The 6-fold qualifications that would make you a qualified person to receive this knowledge. What is the fifth one? Shraddha. What is Shraddha means? Shraddha means a conviction that what the Guru says and what the Shastra says is true. And you make an effort to understand that. That is Shraddha. It's not a blind faith. Shraddha means a conviction that the Shastras, what the Shastra says and what the Guru says is right, is perfect. They cannot go wrong at all. And with this conviction, you try to understand what is being said. This quality is called Shraddha. Are you able to follow? See, now you have Shraddha on your senses, no? Now where is Shraddha? Now Shraddha is on the senses. What is Shraddha on the senses means? I saw that with my own eyes, sir. You say no. Yen kannale na paatha. That is Shraddha on your eyes. For you take that as the pramanam, authority. Are you able to follow? Second is, naan ketan sir. I heard. Yen kaadala naane ketan. There yaar engita solla. I heard it by myself. Today the Shraddha lies on the. Today Shraddha is upon the world. Now to study the Shastras, Shraddha is required. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. Bhagavad Gita. Shraddhavan labate jnanam. A person who has Shraddha alone gains knowledge. The knowledge of Atma Bodha, the knowledge of Vedanta. Therefore, here he introduces Shraddha in the beginning itself. And what is Shraddha means? Again, I am repeating the definition of Shraddha. A conviction that what the Shastras, what is taught in Vedanta is true. And then you use the logic and reason and thinking and try to understand it. We are not saying we are not saying not to. We are not saying don't question, don't think, blindly accept, but a conviction. What is the conviction? That what is said in the Shastras is true, and to develop this Shraddha, you need to have got the conviction that how all other pramanams mislead you, how all other pramanams dupe you, how all other pramanams give you false knowledge, wrong knowledge. When you have understood how all that is false knowledge, then you will develop Shraddha in the Shastras. Now, carefully understand. You can't have conflicting Shraddha at the same time. Huh? You can't have Shraddha on the senses and the world and also have Shraddha in the Shastra. You can't have conflicting Shraddhas like that. It is not possible. So to develop this Shraddha, you need to understand all the authoritative sources of knowledge that you have is all limited, faulty. And then you have no other choice, and then you have no other choice to have Shraddha in what the Shastras talk about. So, important qualification to receive the knowledge is Shraddha. Any number of times you can question. That's where you find Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, 650 verses, he kept on asking the same question. He didn't ask different questions. Allah. Tell me that one thing, what I should do. And what I should do, Arjuna, what I should do, Krishna, I have decided to do what I want to do. What is it that I have decided to already? I have decided to run away. Why don't you agree with me? If you see Bhagavad Gita, what is Arjuna trying with Krishna? 650 verses. And how much ever you try with a wise man, he knows how to bring you back on track. He knows how to bring you back on the track. What is Shraddha? Shraddha is a conviction. A conviction understanding the limitations of other pramanams and having this conviction that this is what will work. Titiksha and Shraddha. Wonderful two qualities. The last thing is Prashanta, tranquility. A tranquility. Tranquility in relation to not getting result oriented. I have been hearing this for Rajvel was telling me the other day, sir, I am listening this for 3 years, sir. I said, I am listening for 40 years. No change has happened in me. What do you think will happen in you? What do you think it will happen to you in 3 years? This is tranquility. This is what tranquility is. Tranquility means the energy to put in the effort and not being bothered about the result. With these 6 qualities, the Shat Sampat, the 4th quality. See, 1, 2, 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, 3F, and then 4. 4 fundamental qualities of an Adhikari is Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampati, Mumukshatva. The 4 qualities is Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampati, Mumukshatva. Now, Viveka and Vairagya we saw already. Today I went into a little bit of detailed explanation on this 6 Shat Sampat. There is another text called We are not going to do all those texts. Don't worry now. There is another textbook called Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sara Sangraha. Title by Adi Shankaracharya, which he calls it as an introductory textbook to Vedanta. Which he calls it as an introductory textbook to Vedanta, and it only has 1100 verses. Just 1100 verses. I tell you, a fantastic book. 1100 verses, he talks about this Shat Sampati. Now don't ask me where to get that book, sir. Which author you recommend to read? Why I am saying that is, it is so the 6 qualities can be elaborated on and on and on. We just give the basic definitions and we move on to the text. First quality, Viveka. Second quality, Vairagya. The third quality, Shat Sampat. Of the Shat Sampat, there are 6 subdivisions: 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, 3F. And then the fourth one, Mumukshatva. You can call it as 4 or you can call it as 9. It doesn't matter. Any numbering you 9, 6 plus 3, 9. So whatever the number is, it doesn't matter. But these are the qualities of a seeker. These are the qualities of an adhikari. The fourth quality is mumukshatva, desire for self-realization. Mumukshatva is there are 2 kinds of thirst. There are 2 kinds of thirst possible in a human being. One kind of thirst is ragadvesha. One kind of thirst is ragadvesha. So thirsty towards the world. Another thirst you can have is mumukshatva. So mumukshatva is also a thirst, an intense thirst for liberation. An intense thirst for liberation. This intense thirst for liberation comes when you have understood the bondage. When you know you have thirst for wealth. When will you have the thirst for wealth? When will you have thirst for wealth? When you know what wealth is, you know the use of wealth, and you also know what all you have if you don't, what all suffering will come if you don't have wealth. You know all this knowledge. You have this complete knowledge. With this knowledge, there is a thirst for wealth. A thirst for wealth, because what brought about this thirst for wealth? You have a knowledge. What is the knowledge? The knowledge of what is wealth, and you know what it is to have it. You know what it is not to have it. And then there is the thirst for it. Thirst for it means you are ready to do anything to acquire wealth, and you are ready to do anything to protect what you have acquired, and all this. Now what here he says is that same knowledge is required. Just as the knowledge that you have about wealth, you need the knowledge of the self. Then you develop mumukshatva. What is the knowledge of self? What is self? What is it that you are losing by not having it? What are the benefits you get if you have it? These 3. These 3 you develop. These 3 knowledge you understand. You will develop this quality called mumukshatva. Now, with this, we conclude the first verse. The first verse, that talks about this Atma Bodha is composed for whom? Tapobi Kshina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshu Namapekshoyam Atma Bodho Vidhiyate. This Atma Bodha is composed. This Atma Bodha is composed for whom? For the one who has these four qualities. For the one who has these four qualities. But sir, I don't seem to have these four qualities. Abdina class nipatituma. Then I'll stop coming to the classes. Bhaskar Shastri. Don't stop. Continue listening. As you continue to listen, you will develop these four qualities also. So this knowledge tells you what these four qualities are. And if you don't have these four qualities, there is a built-in method to develop these four qualities in you. So it teaches you how to have these qualities, and also it teaches you how to, if you have it, what are all the benefits? If you don't have it, how to develop these. So verse number 1. Tapovi kshina papanam shantanam vitaraginam mumukshu namapekshoyam atma bodho vidiyate. This Atma Bodha I am composing for whom? The target audience. Who it is intended to? Who it is intended for? Not for everybody. This Atma Bodha is composed for those who have these four qualities, whose sins are removed by the practice of austerities, a calm mind, free from desires, and a thirst for liberation. With these preparatory qualifications, listing out the preparatory qualifications, we move on to verse number 2. 10 verses he is going to talk about the importance of knowledge. Sorry, 5 verses. Sorry, I made a mistake. 5 verses he is going to talk about the importance of knowledge. How knowledge alone liberates. How knowledge alone liberates. He is going to talk. So we move on to verse number 2. Before I move on to verse number 2, there are some with reference to these verses. I'll take it up and then go to verse number 2. First clarification. Is not the quality of sense withdrawal a part of, a subset of sense control? Unless the self has control over senses, withdrawal is not feasible. In other words, is not Uparati a subset of Dhamma? Now, what Bala is saying is not one connected to the other. Yes, all these 6 qualities are connected to the other. One is connected to the other. All these qualities. And yet, we talk about it separately because you need to attend to every one of them independently. It is all are one connected to the other, and still we talk about it separately because you need to pay attention to individual things. Just as when you exercise one day the upper part of the body, and then another day the side, and then the core, and then the lower part, and then the cardio. Now you need to attend to everything, and when we are told to attend to one, it will be highlighted. But ultimately everything is all are interconnected. One, you can't call one as a subset of another. One is connected to the other. Is it okay, Bala? It is connected to the other.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I understood. Okay.
It is like we focus on one at one time. When we focus on one at one time, we glorify it so much so that the rest goes into insignificant. When we glorify titiksha, when we talk about titiksha, we glorify it so much. And when we talk about Shraddha, we glorify Shraddha that much. But then what do we understand is overall, all are interconnected. That is as far as Bala's clarification is concerned. Now Sriram is saying, you say titiksha known as cheerful acceptance. Why do you qualify acceptance by the word cheerful? Why should I accept it cheerfully? It is my fate. I accept it and deal with it. What does cheerfulness got to do with it? Number one, that's the first question he's asking. Second thing is, can one fake this cheerfulness, and will faking it initially help us get in there? So one can fake this cheerfulness acceptance until they actually realize this state. Now, two questions Sriram is asking. The first question is, I'll explain the question. The first thing is, why do you have to why did you use the word cheerful in that? We deliberately use the word cheerful in that is because the very fact that there are situations which is not under my control itself brings in itself is so depressing. Itself is so difficult to digest for the ego. On top of it, it makes it that much more frustrated. So, a positive attitude of cheerfulness. Fake it till you make it. America. Fake it till you make it. Yeah. Yes. In a limited way, yes. As I am faking it, I substitute it with gaining knowledge and understanding also. So that over a period of time, what I am mechanically practicing. First thing about America is they are so wonderful in devising new words for everything. That's all. What we call as mechanical doing. Mechanically doing it. There is no understanding behind it. Now, the starting point of any doing is there will be a fakeness to it. There will be a mechanical doing to it. As I continue to do and simultaneously gain knowledge and understanding, it becomes right. So in the initial stages, that is, it is not a wrong thing to do, but it will turn into an acceptance only when, as I am so-called faking it, I should add up to knowledge and understanding also. Without I add up this knowledge and understanding, doing it becomes faking it is only postponing the depression. That's all. Eventually, I am depressed deep inside. Are you able to follow?
Correct.
Even as I am faking, the internal depression remains the same. As a result of which, I will not be able to acquire higher knowledge. So here he is saying titiksha as a practice is what can't be cured, endure. What can't be cured, endure. You take it. When I take it, I can take it courageously, cheerfully, or as a victim attitude. Vedanta says, don't accept things with the victim attitude. Because it is the victim attitude that brings about this despondency in life. Most of the time, if you see in practical life, when they are faced with the situation, they immediately go to the victim attitude. No? What is the victim attitude? Why only? Why only me? There is one aunt in my family, very close related to me. She is the classic example of victim attitude. She will say, she will buy some things to sundry. She says, எப்ப நான் வாங்கினாலும் clouds come and cover it. She will buy wheat to dry to sun dry so that it can be grounded. When she dries it, her complaint is, when I go and buy the wheat to sun dry, immediately cloud comes. I said, Madrasla, rain problem and water problem can be solved by 300 rupees. Whenever you have water problem, give that lady 300 rupees, make her to buy 5 kg of wheat and sun dry, clouds will come and rain will come. A victim attitude. Everything in life, the human being has this victim attitude. Now, titiksha is not to develop this victim attitude, is titiksha.
So, Aravindan uncle, if he had said, patiently accept, even that I would have accepted.
Yeah.
Here he says, cheerfully accept. That state was a little too much for me.
Yes. That is where it is done. That's where titiksha is. That's where the difficulty of titiksha is that. How to accept it cheerfully. I didn't want to say that word. I didn't want to use that word. Now that you have asked me, I am saying that cheerful acceptance happens when I have what is known as prasada buddhi. The cheerful acceptance happens when the attitude of prasada buddhi comes. What is prasada buddhi means? This is not a problem that has come to me. It is a blessing that has come to me. Prasada buddhi is what titiksha is all about. A situation, instead of seeing it as a problem, I can take it as a blessing that has come to me. Now, when I see it as a blessing, I will accept it cheerfully.
Okay.
It's a blessing that has come to me. That is titiksha. One of the that last step I didn't want to say. Now that you have asked it, I close to the loop completely.
Yeah.
A situation has come to me, I can see it as a blessing. That is why prasada buddhi we say. Some of the temples they give you prasad without salt, no? Uppliappan Koil Pona, near this, there is this temple town Kumbakonam. You go, they will give you tamarind rice, puliyodara. In that there will not be the first mouth, the first morsel I take, when it goes to my tongue, my reaction is I know people take salt with them, buy that puliyodara, mix the salt and eat. The whole purpose is defeated. What is the purpose? The purpose is how to receive the situation as a prasad. A situation has come to me, this situation has come to me as a blessing. When I see it as a blessing, I would be cheerfully welcoming it. So, a profit that I have gained is a positive, a situation that has come to me. I receive it as a blessing. A loss that I experience is again of the same thing. It's not that I don't know the difference between profit and loss, but one part of me knows how to receive it as a blessing, prasada buddhi. This ability to receive the difficult situations in life as prasada buddhi is what is called as titiksha. Because it has come from the higher. It has come from the higher. It has come from God. We can say higher, God, anything. The mother slaps the child and the child is crying. We tell the mother, we tell the child, mother only slapped. No. The child will turn back and say, what nonsense. Whether who slaps doesn't matter. Slap is a slap and pain is the pain. It's not that when the mother slaps, it will be like succumb. No, pain is, but then it has come to you from the higher. You do not know why it has come to you, but there is a benefit in you for that, which you are not able to understand right now. And if you cheerfully welcome it and understand it rightly, you will know how to process it rightly and understand and derive the proper benefit out of it. If I have to do all these rightly, the first step is important. What is the first step? How do I receive it in me? That part is called titiksha. That's why, and the cheerfulness vandana, it becomes titiksha. Otherwise, it is just ordinarily putting up with. The subtlety of the quality is only when we bring in this word, only when he bring in this this adjective, cheerfulness. Swamiji gives this example. A guest comes home, you have only one bed. You give the bed to the guest and you sleep on the floor. Now, when you sleep on the floor, it is painful to you. It's not that you are happy sleeping on the floor. It is painful to you, but you are able to go through that pain, not judging, not complain, not patience, joyfully, cheerfully. Why? Because there is an element of understanding that has come along with the situation. That is titiksha. And loosely it will be translated as forbearance. Loosely it will be translated as putting up with. Now, you don't need Krishna. See, the logic that we apply for all that the Shastra say is that which is obvious, we don't need a person of a higher intellect to come and tell us. Are you able to follow? We, each and every word of the Shastra, we take it like that. With this attitude, we try to analyze each and every word. That which is obvious, we don't need a great master to come and tell us, for we know it already. Why do we need them? That which we are not able to penetrate and see, he is saying it. It means I go deeper into it. So that is why when we say, when you loosely translate titiksha as forbearance, the capacity to put up with all that, all this we do anyway instinctively. That which we are doing already, we don't need a Krishna or a Shankaracharya to come and tell us, no. We need them to come and tell us that which we are not able to understand. Sriram, in the formula, this is the formula with which we analyze the entire Shastras.
But one question, Aravindan uncle, if we have that prasada buddhi mentality, then will we even care to find a solution? You know, this whole thing is a prasadam. It is his will. So why does the person in that state even care to find a solution or have this intense drive to find a solution? Only if I feel I'm in a rut will I want to get out of the rut. But when I have a feeling that this is the blessing of the Lord, why will I ever feel like this is something that I need to get out of or work towards it? Or work towards getting out of it.
Blessing has come to me so that I can exercise and work. That blessing itself is for me to exercise. Blessing is not for me to stay quiet. That's what I said in the beginning. Blessing itself has come to me so that I can exercise. Now, if that blessing is not there, I will be lazy, indulging. I will be lazy, I will be indulging, I will not be doing anything. So this very blessing itself is, the very blessing itself comes to me so that I can exercise. What I can exercise? I can exercise my thinking, I can direct my actions, either individually or collectively. We do all these things. In this process, what do? We develop a maturity. We develop a maturity. What is the maturity? The maturity to digest the fact that as I am trying to make an effort and try to understand and try to get a solution and all that, I will not stop finding solution, but I will not see the situation as an enemy that has to be conquered. It's not an enemy that has come to hurt me. It's not an enemy that has come to harm me. It is something that has come to wake me up. Since it has come to wake me up, I welcome it thankfully. I welcome it cheerfully. I welcome it blissfully.
Sure.
If not, why this is because when things are going in one's way, the tendency of the human being, when I say tendency means 98% of the human being tend to relax, indulge. That's why they say necessity is the mother of invention. No, necessity is the mother. Now all that is correct, but how we use it not to solve a worldly problem, we use it so that the situation I can use it for my evolution. And when I am working out a solution, incidentally it will benefit others also. Loka Sangraha. That is why in Karma Yoga, I always define Karma Yoga, not that I define, the Shastra says Karma Yoga is of two. It is as you are working for your evolution, whatsoever you do would be of benefit to the society also. So now if I have to motivate myself to go through this marathon, it's a marathon, no?
Correct.
Like to get a vaccine is a marathon, no? It's not that you get it and it's done. You really don't know the number of probabilities that goes into it. You really don't know what are all the reactions. Now it's a marathon. Now how to keep you motivated to go right till the end? The starting point itself has to be correct. What is the starting point? The starting point is Titiksha. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Lakshmi, referring to the example of 40 years and 3 years, how do I know I am on the right path? If I am following something, then the result should show. Now, Lakshmi is asking, how do I know I am on the right
path?
How do I know I am on the right path? You know that you are on the right path when these 4 qualities are increasing in you. When this Viveka, Vairagya, who's the host today? When this Viveka, Vairagya, these 4 qualities that he says, if it is developing in you, you know that you are on the right. You know that you are on the right path. That is why we spend so much of time discussing these fourfold qualifications. If it is increasing in you, it is an indication that you are on the right path. The result will show. What is the result that will show? The result will show is this. The austerities will increase, the calmness will increase, The desires that was disturbing and agitating so much will not agitate and disturb you that much. The Shraddha will increase, the Titiksha will increase. All these 9 qualities that I said will keep increasing. This is the indication that you are, this is the indication that you are on the, that this is indication that you are on the, this is indication that you are on the right path.
Okay, thank you.
Is it okay, Ma?
Yeah, thank you.
Ensure this, ensure that these, with these 4 qualities. That is why in the very first verse he has given the these 4 qualities. Now,
Okay.
I think I have covered all questions, or one more. Bala, please confirm. Cheerful attitude is to understand and accept that the situation has come due to my past karma. So, since I cannot escape from my past karmic bondage, why not accept it with a positive attitude, face it and welcome it and work towards solving it with an inner understanding that the solution, which is a new karma, itself can cause a problem. Bala, you are right. That is where when you solve a problem, you need to have this right knowledge so that it doesn't create, it doesn't go into another problem. Now, it is perfectly correct to say the situation has come due to my past karma. If you take that stance that due to my past karma, you have taken the responsibility upon yourself. And when you take the responsibility upon yourself, you can cheerfully take it, or you can curse your own past. I was so dumb in the past that I have to do it and I'm suffering now. You don't take that attitude. You don't take that attitude. You say that it is a situation that you have to face. That is why in Titiksha, we will not, even though you are not wrong in connecting like this, in Titiksha, we will not connect past karma and all that. In Titiksha, we restrict it to a situation that you have to, a situation that is inevitable, which you have to handle. And everything you can connect it to past karma in a way. But then we don't take that, discussion of past karma when it comes to Titiksha. When we discuss past karma, see, as we go into the text, we will be discussing the Sthula Shariram, the Sukshma Shariram, the gross body, the subtle body and all that. When we go into the discussion of this gross body and all that, we will bring in a past karma a little bit there. Otherwise, generally, we don't talk about the past karma as a factor to understand and practice Titiksha. Bhavanam or positive attitude is crucial. Correct. The bhava is very, very important. The bhava is what is very, very important here. Correct. Last question, which I missed. Just as an example, sir, wanted to listen for 1 hour in deep calmness, but meanwhile, my kid demands something which is equally important. Accept the situation for some time, fulfilled his demand, and back to the discourse. Is it wrong? It all depends upon how old the child is. If it is a 3-year-old child, 5-year-old child, 7-year-old child, attend to it. If it is a 15-year-old child, 15-year-old child, lock the child up. 40-year-old child, 80-year-old child, what to do? So it all depends upon how old is the child and what is your obligation. That's why I am not ridiculing your example. I'm only saying it is in relation to how much the child is how much the child can be handled. If it is a small child, it is perfectly right to go and attend and come back, because it will not allow you to do this. It is perfectly all right to now. You need not do it to. You need not take this as a rule in all situations under all circumstances. Is it okay, ma? It depends on the particular situation. Yeah. Learning this knowledge, you say, is like churning the ocean by the Asuras and Devas. The first thing that came out was poison. And similarly, when we study this knowledge, our negativity may come out and we may not see improvement. But how do we still remain steadfast, unlike the relative growth of Viveka and Vairagya that you talked about? This is where Shraddha comes in. To overcome this specific problem is where the quality of the fifth quality, 3A, B, C, D, E, 3, we call it as Shraddha. This is where Shraddha comes in and will help you to guide you through. It is perfectly correct. Whenever we start the spiritual progress, like this example of churning the Milky Ocean, they started churning for Amrita, and what came? Ordinary poison, deadliest poison came. Yeah, and they have the name for that poison also. Deadliest poison. Now, the whole world was getting choked by that poison. Nobody was able to handle it. And they all went to Shiva. And Shiva is symbolic of tapasvi. See, Vishnu is symbolic of alasya, relaxation all the time. Vishnu is, yeah, he is all the time, he is relaxing, enjoying, constant. Lakshmi at his feet, massaging. That is one. That is one side. Here we have another god, Shiva, all the time in the cross-legged portion, closed eyes, tapas. So this deadliest negativity can be handled only through tapas. And to do that, and not to get disillusioned by the negativities that surface, and to continue to do the tapas, the solution is Shraddha as a quality is a solution for us. That's why I say, yes, they have said it. They have already told me this is how it will be. Like the doctor tells you, no, you go for the surgery, 3rd day it will pain, 5th day there will be more pain. From 14th day only you will see the reduction. I go through the 4th day pain, 10th day pain till the 14th day comes with Shraddha. That's how it works. Yeah. With this, I conclude the session for today. From next week, we start with verse number 2. From next week, we start with verse number 2 onwards. Thank you.